Welcome to Two Luckies,
the podcast,
and our series Dyin,
Cryin
and
Lyin.
This is a series of us talking about Little House on the Prairie and our take on it as adults.
It is very different as an adult.
Very different. And if you sum this all up, they can fall into one of three categories, either dying,
They're crying,
or they're lying.
lying.
So sit back, relax, come take an adventure with us as we reminisce on Little House the Prairie, Dyin,
Cryin
and
Lyin.
Lyin.
Season 1, The Circus Man.
Ooh.
This episode starts out with Jack the dog looking like he is laying on that floor so hard he's about to melt into it. And then they pan backwards. So this must have been some long shot they did through this window, because we pan back through the window and we pan back out into the yard, and then we see a rifle somewhere in the distance, and then they shoot the rifle. And now, why the dog did not alert? I mean, we start with the dog. So the guard dog,
This one
right?
really started with a bang.
It started with a bang. I mean, my gosh. So they hear this huge bang. Everybody jumps out of bed. Pa gets out and he's wearing one of those night clothes things that's like a long nightgown down to his ankles. It's like one big just like dress almost kind of thing. And he's barefoot. He comes out with his rifle and he meets this guy who's talking like a leprechaun. And his name is Mr. O'Hara, who tells a story about he was coming down the road. Now, this is the middle of the night. No moon.
Oh, yeah.
It is just, I mean, it is as dark as you can get outside and still be outside. And this guy was out there somehow trying to find a place to sleep. Why he waited until the middle of the night? Because everybody was in bed. Everybody was a snooze. And then he comes and says that he saw a bobcat and was trying to do them a favor, tried to shoot it and somehow missed it. And now he's looking for a place to stay. And they go back and forth. And now he's going to be staying where he's going to be leaving his animals, you know. I mean, this was a level of trust for a guy that just shot up your yard. Like, you don't know him. Like,
I think he's being a little too trusting here.
A little too trusting. I mean, you have
Hey.
children in the house. The dog gave no indication that this dog was laying there like he was just ready to rest and just stay there for the next 12 hours without moving. And here we are the next morning, and we see Laura and Mary all happy and ready for school. It looks like Laura's got the lunch bucket, and they are like running outside.
Let's see what happens. Mr. O'Hara is a circus man. That's what he told Chaz in the middle of the night when he was allowed to bring his carriage down and set up by the barn and corral his horses. And now we're out in the morning. We have Mary and Laura walking up looking at this guy's wagon, and he peers around, and I swear that this is like the creepiest guy I've seen in a long time.
I mean, he's very intense, and he's a circus guy, so he does that whole showmanship thing, and he walks around them looking for wings on their backs, and we find out that the girls don't believe in any fairy folk or little folk or trolls or leprechauns, which I already said, which I laughed because I had mentioned leprechauns.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And he has a talking raven, and he has this picture on the side of this huge gorilla.
He rolls up the covering on the gorilla cage, and you open it up, and you see it's a monkey.
But it's like a little monkey. Like, you could like hug this monkey. Like,
and he tells this whole story about how Congrilla is what he was called, climbed up into this big tree, and this witch doctor went up there, and when he came down, he was this size, to which I am going to call a
lion, because we know none of that happened. You were just spinning another yarn over there, and the girls don't know what to make about this. And then the bird says it, time to go. And as Charles walks up, he says, well, the bird is right. You need to get going. And they had to hurry on to school.
I really need to say this. I think Pa is just being way too trusting.
Yes. And I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. He's got these very loud monkey in this wagon that he's got, And then he does this whole trick with because she goes to get the eggs. Ma gets the eggs, and I think Jack is acting very like calm, considering there's all these like
weird
exotic animals around all of a sudden. And she finds like what 1 or 2 eggs, and this Mr. O'Hara says there's not enough eggs, and then he does this whole like thing where he finds the eggs all over the place. And I thought to myself, wow, they're like easily amused, I guess, before TV and everything. You know, some guy holding the eggs in his hand and then turning it around and acting like he just found them in there or found them behind Charles's hat and all this other stuff. And we're going to call that a lion. Because we know you took the eggs before they came out, and now you're doing this whole shuck and jive. Although he did somehow get one in the pocket of Ma's apron, and she says, how do you do it? And then we end the scene with her doing a very forced laugh. But she really was trying. I will give Ma some credit. She was trying to act like it was funny, but I have a feeling that it took them a few tries to do this scene.
And I also want to point out, Chaz is still wearing the same shirt.
Same shirt.
We're at Hanson's mill where we see Chaz sawing up some siding, it looks like, and then we have Mr. Hanson comes out and has another order for him, so you should think, wow, they're having business. But I gotta tell you, I have never seen Doc Baker act quite that way.
This was interesting.
Persnickety.
Well, yes. I mean, so we see Mr. Hanson. He gives the information to Charles, and Charles says, okay, after I finish this order, I'll do the next order. And then Mr. Hanson is holding his head like his head is about to explode. He looks like he's in pain.
Doesn't look well.
And instead of addressing Mr. Hanson, the Doc Baker, who's holding like some kind of a bottled beverage, okay, he instead of looking at, you know, somebody who looks like they're visibly in pain, he starts talking to Charles about the Circus Man and all this, you know, oh, I hear you got it. So news travels fast still in Walnut Grove because they're 3.5 miles out and the whole town knows they got the Circus Man over there, right?
Yeah.
They have a whole conversation about that. And then Doc Baker starts yelling at Mr. Hanson about this headache. I mean, he is yelling at him.
Yes. Why don't you come in and let me examine you?
And Mr. Hanson says, I took the pills and they don't work. And they're going back and forth and back and forth. And Doc Baker gets so mad that he shoves the bottle of whatever half-empty drink that he's drinking at Charles so much that it makes him jump. And now they're bringing us back to Little House. So, I mean, they're doing some interesting stuff
if
here.
If you think about it, that was really smart of Doc to shove something in a man's hands who's working with a saw.
You know, and we were noticing that Charles, the actor of Charles, was keeping his fingers very close. They are actually sawing this board.
Yes.
He was keeping his fingers very close to this and trying to, like, navigate conversations while he's doing the sawing with his fingers, like, 2 inches away from the saw. Yes. We have a quick little scene where, again, it's the middle of the night, everybody's asleep. We hear hooting and hollering from outside from this Mr. O'Hara on his wagon, and they look outside. The girls are upstairs, Laura and Mary looking outside. The whole wagon is shaking and shaking. By the time Pa gets outside, this time he put on his pants and his shoes, I think. He wasn't just out here in his nightgown clothing. And he goes outside. Mr. O'Hara is laying on the ground, and he says, a thief, a thief. And so I think they cracked my ribs. Now, whoa, a thief?
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity at the Ingalls farm that is unusual today.
We're back inside the Ingalls residence where it looks like Chaz is performing some kind of triage on this guy or first aid repair.
He's taping up his ribs.
And boy, he's got the smirk. We got some planned future lying coming up. It's just amazing.
Okay, so we're inside. We have yet to see Carrie in this episode at all. So if you were waiting for the Carrie Report, we are waiting for Carrie also. We got Ma and Pa sitting on one side of the table. We have the guy now who supposedly has broken ribs, who's Mr. O'Hara, who's sitting down. We have Laura there, and Mary went out to his wagon, this Mr. O'Hara's wagon, and brings back in this green box. And then he goes on and on about telling this whole thing about how there's some secret of shami or something he calls it in here, and that it's good for the body and it's going to heal him. And he's doing like all these magic tricks with his fingers. And the whole time we have Charles sitting over there with Ma with the smirkaloo he's smirking because
smirk.
and there she's smirking back at him because they think he is Lyin. And he
Lyin.
pours this powder into some water, and it reminded me of like Alka-Seltzer. It
Alka-Seltzer.
fizzed up like that. And then he drinks this thing and proclaims that he's going to be better within a day or two. And I'm wondering if he even got hurt at all. So we're just going to call this one Lyin. The whole scene, we got it.
We're now at the mercantile where we have Mr. Hanson. He's trying to return a bottle of medicine he bought to cure this headache. And after some back and forth with Mrs. Olson, now we have Laura and Mary walking into the store, which right away she's got to bring up, Mr. O'Hara, and maybe he can help you. And she's going to go ahead and mention his secret potion that he has, which she had already told him the night before when he asked, you have to keep this a secret. She's not keeping it a secret. She's
I'll
over
never
here.
tell. Mary
Yep.
is tapping her about it because she is
Lying.
She was lying last night when she said she wouldn't say anything. And poor Mr. Hanson looks like his head is about to split, and he's trying to return a half-empty bottle of something that he says has a money-back guarantee.
And here's Laura over here singing like a song.
And Mary's like, tap, 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 tap. Laura talks up his secret powders from India so much that Mr. Hanson goes walking out holding his head. He leaves the bottle with Mrs. Olson, and we see him out, and he must be at the Ingalls place. He's standing in front of the wagon
Right.
for Mr. O'Hara, and he is drinking this magic potion powder in the water, and it must have some kind of a magical effect, because after a few little burps here and there that he excuses himself for, he feels better. And now we see him, that they change scenes. Doc Baker is chasing after him, and Mr. Hanson looks like he is a new man.
Yeah, Mr. O'Hara called it something about Shami.
Shami, we're trying to hear what he's saying. We have a very large rainstorm outside right now.
And
We're trying to hear what he's saying.
Let me bring this up. I think we know by now that Mr. Hanson and Doc Baker are close friends.
They are
It
really
seems like
good
they've
friends.
known each other quite a long time. I find it very amusing that first he's going to the Olsons and now he's going to see a magic man before he goes and sees the doctor.
Yeah, because Mrs. Olson was like, we have all the remedies here. And he goes to see this guy with this, this circus guy. And he looks like he has just got a new lease on life where we got it paused. Mr. Hanson is feeling so good from this free dose of India powder Shami thing that he got from Mr. O'Hara. He is singing. Doc Baker is freaking out because he's saying, he's going to sell a ton of them. It pretty much like he's going to put me out of business
Right.
was the vibe I was getting.
Oh, he's worried.
And then Charles says that the remedies that they have at the Olsons are, what did he call them?
He called them phony. They have phony remedies at the Olsons, but I never see you complaining about them selling them.
Right, but he said, they only sell 1 or 2 bottles a month over there. So Doc Baker is worried that he's about to be put out of business by this guy with his magic powders that he gave away for free, and he's assuring us that the first dose is free, so he gets you hooked on it, and then you'll buy more and more. He said, mark my words.
And the whole time, Chaz is just standing there with a big smirk.
Smirkaloo!
We're back at the mercantile where we see Mrs. Olson bustling around, and then walks Mr. O'Hara.
Hold on, but she's holding her side. She is in pain.
That's
so
right.
The people of Walnut Grove tend to be pretty healthy, but for some reason this guy comes
All of a
around and
sudden,
everybody's got some
got
kind of
issues.
an ailment. So she's talking about the powders, how he had broken ribs. He picks up an anvil
Yes.
in front of her, and now he figures out that she's in pain, and now she wants the powders. And I don't know exactly what his shtick is, but he's not asking for money from anybody, and we're calling Lyin.
There's no way you had broken ribs and then a day later you're picking up an anvil.
But I mean, we did see an improvement with Mr. Hanson's headache, and now Mrs. Olson was willing to pay, and he said no payment needed or asked, and he does this magic trick, and the powder shows up, and now we see, I don't know who, somebody's coming down in a carriage while Ma and Pa over here are digging a post and putting a post in outside the corral. Now, Doc Baker comes down. We are informed that Mrs. Olson has appendicitis and needs an operation, where she had just told this Mr. O'Hara in the last scene that there was nothing Doc Baker could do for her.
Right.
But as surgery is kind of like something he could do for her, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. But it looks like this Mr. O'Hara has taken up shop at the Ingalls farm, and he is just living there now. And now Doc Baker is saying that Mrs. Olsen refuses to have the surgery done because this Mr. O'Hara said that the powders would fix her up and make her healthy again, and now she refuses to do anything else. And he has been informed that he needs to come in with Doc Baker and say that the powders are useless because the guy said, oh, you know, it's God's will, God willing, it'll make you better, but it won't hurt you. But now I guess Doc Baker knew she needed surgery. They're being a little confusing here, but Charles has been yelled at quite a bit for he has been spoken to by Doc Baker multiple times about having this Mr. O'Hara over here. But this Mr. O'Hara is really looking very comfortable living at the Ingalls farm.
Very comfortable.
I mean, it's like he moved in.
Doc Baker brings Mr. O'Hara over to the Olsen's place, where we go in and find out that now she's bedridden.
She is sweating. She is in pain. She's like rolling around.
So he goes in, Mr. O'Hara, Doc Baker, and Nels is up there. Mr. O'Hara sits down and whips out some more of this magic powder, mixes it in a glass of water for her to drink, and Doc Baker was about to intervene, and Nels actually grabs a hold of him and says, wait, just wait a minute.
Right, so she drinks the fizzing powder, and she thinks that that's going to fix her up, and he does this whole thing about how you'll never know you had the operation, and we're calling a lion.
He's saying that she's going to join the likes of royalty and Queen Victoria and princess of somebody else that had the same operation, and it's going to be quick and painless. How would you know it's going to be quick and painless?
Well, there's that, but he also says, may my tongue fall out if I'm lying. So his tongue must be laying on the ground somewhere because this man has kind of done a whole thing. He seems to have like a hypnotic effect on everybody here. So now Doc Baker takes off his tie and walks in like he's about to do this surgery with no assistance, no equipment, or no anything right now. Like he walks in, Nels goes out with Mr. O'Hara and closed the door, and Doc Baker was going in there like he was about to do this surgery with his bare hands. Like, did they think about some of this stuff?
I wonder.
They take us outside and we see a whole mess of Prairie. The entire town is sitting outside the Mercantile waiting to find out the fate of Mrs. Olsen because somehow Doc Baker, without any equipment or anything else, did really walk in there and do this surgery.
In her own bed.
He comes out looking like he hasn't slept in a year. His dog died and they dragged him behind a cart after his house burned down. He looks miserable. Everybody is so excited about how, oh yay, Mrs. Olsen is going to live. And then Doc Baker, with his morose face over there that he looks like he had so much trouble, goes over there and yells kind of at Charles in that quiet kind of way of, one of us needs to talk to this Mr. O'Hara. He's still here with his powders. And we get the music implying that that's true. Mrs. Olsen came within a whisper of Dyin. You knew they couldn't leave it out. They had to give us the bang pow in this episode. They got us going here. So far, we have had no crying yet.
Not yet.
We have had some whisper close to dying, and we have had a whole bunch of lying from this Mr. O'Hara. And now, Doc Baker pretty much said it's either you, Charles, that goes tell him, or I'm going to tell him.
Chaz goes back to his farm and sees Mr. O'Hara sitting on the back of his wagon and then has a little chat with him. First to let him know that Mrs. Olsen is going to be fine, that she made it through the surgery, and then he calls him out that his powders are bogus, and he finally got Mr. O'Hara to admit that he's been lying. This guy tries to say that it's just everybody's imagination. I just said they were harmless, and then Chaz had to call him out with, you also said they'd cure broken ribs in a day.
Yes, and he admitted, Mr. O'Hara, that was Blarney, which is his way of saying that he was a lion. We knew it the whole time, but now Mr. O'Hara has been asked to leave. He says he's going to leave before morning light, so he doesn't have to say goodbye to the wee ones. And we found out that Doc Baker must have done something to the powders, because it was just sugar, baking soda, and some effervescent.
Yes.
And that's why this guy was going around saying it was harmless, which I guess it was, but he was using the placebo effect of you thought you took medicine. So Mr. Hanson was cured by himself by taking a powder that he thought was going to cure him, and somehow it magically did. Mary and Laura come outside all excited because we find out it's Saturday morning and Mr. O'Hara was going to teach Laura some magic tricks. She had waited all week for this. And they come outside to just see Pa over there getting ready, his dream team from the 100-mile walk. He's getting the team of horses ready. And Pa cooks up a whole heap and helping of lion. He comes up with all these reasons as to why Mr. O'Hara is gone. It's like you asked him to leave, but he didn't tell that to the girls. He says that, circus folk are unpredictable and they're footloose and fancy-free, and you never know what they're going to do. It's hard to explain, and somehow he has 2 pennies in his pocket, and he gives them a penny each to go into town to go buy some candy and bring in the eggs for Ma to sell at the mercantile. And they're bringing Jack, and we have yet to see Carrie at all in this episode.
Now, didn't we just hear in the last episode the whole PSA about sugar and candy was so bad for your teeth? But here, let me cook up a big fat lie for you and then give you some hush money and send you down and spoil your teeth.
Right, so. And a penny's worth of candy back then was like a whole little sack of candy. It was a significant amount of candy. So I don't know where they're going with this, but they're keeping pressing those buttons on lion. The girls go into town. Laura tells Jack to wait outside, no rope, no nothing, just sits him on the porch outside of the mercantile. He sees a cat. Jack sees the cat, goes running out to go after this cat. A wagon runs over him, and now he's laying in the street, and they're leaving us with the impression that he may be dying. They knew they needed another thing going because they were going too long without pressing the buttons. But now poor Jack is over there laying in the middle of the street. The wagon is behind him, and Mary is staring like, oh my gosh. Now Jack is over there. He's hurting. We're back at the farm. Jack is laying in some kind of bed that they made for him. He is doing very poorly, and Laura is crying. And then she says that she wishes Mr. O'Hara was there to give those magic powders. And then Pa has to admit that Mr. O'Hara had been lying. But you left him there for a week and you didn't say a thing about it. And now Laura believes that Mr. O'Hara is some kind of magic being. Maybe she thinks he is a leprechaun or some kind of a lucky charm. But now he's gone. The dog is hurting. And now they had to strenuously tell Laura that, oh no, Mr. O'Hara was lying. Mr. O'Hara was a faker. And now they're stuck with this whole big situation because he was overly trusting with some guy in the middle of the night.
Really, they're stuck with it because he left this perpetual lion.
Because,
if he squashed it right in the beginning, we wouldn't be in this situation.
See, here we go again.
Now that Laura has gone up the ladder and she's convinced that Pa and Ma are both wrong about Mr. O'Hara, Pa gets ready to leave and Ma asks him where he's going, and which he says, I gotta go get Mr. O'Hara. If Jack dies, Laura will never forgive me. And
so they had to mention it again. Somebody may be dying.
Once again, it's all started by all of this lion.
And now Laura is upstairs crying. Pa finds Mr. O'Hara. We see him riding down some embankment. He sees Mr. O'Hara's wagon. We come back into the little house. It is a very tense scene, and we see Carrie in the high chair.
Carrie, she's here.
She's here. So she's in the episode now. This is the first time we've seen her the entire episode.
No lines.
And it's a very tense scene. Ma and Pa are looking like they are ready to spit nails. They're so angry and they're upset. And Laura is over the moon that Mr. O'Hara came back. He tries to put a little bit of this magic powder water on a rag and rubs it on the dog and now says, God willing, the dog will be better. But as Mr. O'Hara goes to walk outside to go tend to his animals, Pa looks like he's about to take him in the barn and beat him senseless. But this is all because Pa and Ma allowed how long of whatever of lying.
Came back to bite you.
It did, didn't it? This entire episode has had people saying, you said this, when the guy says, no, I said this. So I find it very interesting that when you listen to what Mr. O'Hara said, he said, I would come back and give what comfort I could. I would return with you and give what comfort I could to your wee one. And he said, Pa said, you said you would tell her that your powders were a phony. Now, I do think it's an interesting thing that there's such a disconnect between what Mr. O'Hara is saying and what people are perceiving he is saying.
There's a lot of assuming going on here.
Yes, there is a lot of it.
And what happens when you assume?
You make an ass out of you and me.
I think Mr. O'Hara did a very good job of calling Pa out on his BS.
I do too.
After Pa gives him kind of a tongue lashing about why didn't you tell her your powders are worthless, he says, hey, I notice you didn't say anything either.
Yeah,
what
you
about
didn't
that?
speak up about it. How about that?
It's funny, while he's telling him all she has now is hopes and prayers and always the good Lord willing. Either the dog's going to get better or he's not going to get better. Well, all you want to do is take away her hopes and dreams.
But her little
and
bit
it's
of hope
funny,
that she has.
when he asked him, why didn't you say anything? All he could do is turn around and stare at his wagon, not say a word.
And shove his hands deep in his pockets.
Walks back into the house. So, yeah, he called you out on your BS, Chaz.
Yeah, so, Mr. O'Hara, it's interestingly enough, they keep calling him a liar, but he's actually kind of more honest than everybody else in town. It looks like it's nighttime at the little house. Ma and Pa are laying in bed with the oddest choice of lighting I've ever seen in my life. They are bathed in light from above them like the sun is on them, but they have a lantern next to Charles, and somehow both of their faces are completely lit up. Then we go over to Mr. O'Hara, who is slumped over on the dining room table, whatever their table is in the middle, and he has some lighting that's only coming from one side, even though the lantern is in front of him. Laura is laying down against the wall next to Jack, and Jack starts to whimper and wakes Laura up, and now she calls, Ma, Pa, and they leap out of bed fully dressed.
And I just want to say, Pa, still wearing that same
He
shirt.
is wearing that shirt out.
Now that it looks like Jack is all better, Laura is convinced and really brings to light what Doc Baker's been saying all along. This guy's going to run me out of business, and he's offering false hope. So she comes right out and says it. You need to stay now because we'll never have any sick people or animals ever in Walnut Grove.
Because of you and your magic powders.
Right, so this guy finally confesses and says the whole time everything he's been saying was
lying. Even
which
his name and his voice.
Which in turn makes Laura
crying
because she can't believe that he's just pulled the wool over her eyes.
Well, and that Pa was right, because Pa had said all this guy does is tricks, and now Mr. O'Hara, whatever his name is, has admitted that everything he's done up until this point has been one big heap and ball of lying. We knew they knew the show was Dyin, Cryin and Lyin. Woohoo! Charles comes outside, hands deep in his pocket, getting ready to say goodbye to Mr. O'Hara, who's getting ready to leave. And he says, well, where are you going to end up going? Where are you going to go? I might be going to the next town, Mr. O'Hara says. I may be going here and there. And Charles says, with the smirk, the smirkaloo was out. And he says, well, if you're ever around this way again, come by. All this trouble that they had. And he's like, yep, come back. So
really,
now Mr.
Chaz?
O'Hara, with a wink and a click to his horses, He says, "Oh, good Lord willing," and off he goes into the sunset. And I feel like when I said, "Oh, I think I know this episode," I was completely wrong. I thought that this title went to a completely different episode than what this was. And I know I've seen this episode before, but I don't think I've ever seen it from beginning to end.
But I will say, at least with this episode, we did come close to dying.
We came close to dying. We had Mrs. Olsen with a hair's breadth of dying. We had Jack, who was potentially dying.
Right.
We had a lot of crying, and then we had a whole heap and bunch of lying. 'Cause pretty much everything out of Mr. O'Hara's mouth was a lie. So until the end when he fessed up. But that was it. They knew it was Dyin, Cryin and Lyin. We finally did get to see Carrie again at the end. Ma was holding her, so the Carrie Report, if you're following it, she didn't come in until very late in the end.
Still no lines.
She was no lines again in this episode. She was in the high chair and she was on Ma's, hip while they were getting ready to say goodbye to Mr. O'Hara after he fessed up.
Be sure to join us for the next episode, which is called Child of Pain.
Child of Pain. Okay, I didn't know the titles of things when we were kids, because this whole thing about seeing the titles now is like kind of a new thing still for us. But Child of Pain.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
We'll see you then.
And that concludes this episode of Two Lockies.
Two Lockies, the podcast.
And our series, Dyin,
Cryin
and Lyin.
We release these in threes, so if you enjoyed it, there's more. Go check it out.
Go check them out. We'll see you next time.
We're out.
See ya.
Two Lockies, the podcast.
Two Lockies podcast.
Two Lockies, the podcast.
Congratulations. If you made it this far, it's time for Fun Fact Trivia.
Woohoo! You made it.
So what do we got today?
We got today, while we were recording this episode, we had a massive torrential thunderstorm. We were having trouble hearing ourselves at some point. The house was rattling and shaking. The water was like crashing down on the roof. I mean, my goodness. So we're not sure if you heard it or not, but we had a whole heap and bunch of rain for this one.
Oh, we sure did, but we were still able to bring it to you, so we appreciate you.
We appreciate it.